To roll call to my left, Paul.
City Councilman Paul Wimmer.
Mike Warrington, City Council Member.
Jody O'Cady, City Council Member.
Homer, City Council President, sitting in for Mayor.
Phil Hamilton, City Council Member.
Tim Berry, City Council. Man, it's really loud tonight.
Tom Gresham for the Police Department.
Chad Russell, Fire Chief.
Matt Kane, Finance Director.
That's one.
Dana Engstrom, City Clerk.
Jolene Graham, Assistant City Administrator.
Les Mangus, Director of Community Development.
Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator.
And next on the agenda, invocation by Randy Sexton from Epic Church. Thanks, Randy.
So please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the grace and the goodness that you give and for your love that's new every day. And we ask you to bless this meeting, grant guidance and wisdom in the decisions that need to be made and the discussions. Pray that you'd be with our police and firefighters as they stand ready to assist whenever. May you grant them your protection. And we thank you, Father, for this beautiful city and for your grace to us. And I ask for your protection for all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'd like to open the floor to public forum. If you have anything to say, please state your name and address. Limit your speech to 3 minutes. Seeing no one, we'll move on. Acceptance of the agenda.
Mr. President, I'd move to accept the agenda as presented or add any modifications requested at this time of the meeting.
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Paul. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 5-0.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 6, guys.
Council President votes.
Not my first rodeo.
I didn't know you can count that high, Homer. Sorry.
Let's move on to the proclamation. Phil.
Got it. And as I'm reading this, the first one on the culinary team, you guys can feel free to come up here and we'll snap a picture after I'm done reading it. Whereas the culinary management team for Andover Central High School won its 4th straight state championship, and whereas this was the Pro Start Kansas competition held on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024 in Wichita, and whereas at the competition, the team created a business plan for a restaurant, Destination Donuts, and presented it to the judges from the restaurant and hospitality industry, and whereas team members consisted of Emma Gear, Bryn Boyd, Jasmine Rader, and Madison Triplett, and the team is coached by Lacey Woods. And whereas the team will head to the National Pro Start Program competition in Washington, D.C. in April, and therefore I, Phil Hamilton, with the City Council assembled in regular session on the 9th day of April 2024, hereby proclaim April 10th, 2024 as Andover Central Culinary Management Team Day.
Did you guys bring any samples?
I wish.
And then what donut did you guys win?
Oh, well, so we created an entire menu. And through this menu, we just presented it. They got no samples. So. They take pictures of all.
Congratulations, guys. Thanks, ladies. Sure, and then we got the second one, the KMEA All-State Mixed Choir and Treble Choir members. Come on up here and stand Next to the podium here, folks.
Don't be shy.
Come on, get on over here.
Whereas the Kansas Music Educators Association is an organization of music educators committed to the concept that the study of music is a positive influence in the lives of individuals and society as a whole. And whereas all state concerts were held at the Century 2 Convention Center in Wichita during the last week of February as part of the annual KMEA in-service workshop, and whereas the students selected for All-State KMEA were required to learn and perform 2 different pieces for a panel of judges the first weekend of November, as well as have one of the top 7 scores in their audition room to qualify for state. And whereas being selected to KMEA All-State is the top honor any high school, middle school singer can achieve, as it takes a great deal of preparation for auditions, dedication to show up for multiple rehearsals and performances, and persistence. And whereas the students not only learn the skills of preparation, dedication, persistence, professionalism, and excellence, but they are talented singers who contribute greatly not only to our programs, but to the culture of our schools and the strength of our community. And whereas Kansas Music Educators Association All-State Middle Level choir members from Andover Central Middle School were recognized, and whereas KMEA All-State Mixed Choir and Treble Choir members from Andover High School and Andover Central High School were recognized, and therefore I, Phil Hamilton, with the City Council assembled in regular session on the 9th day of April 2024, hereby proclaim April 11th, 2024 as KMEA All-State Mixed Choir and Treble Choir Day.
Great job, guys. What a definition of teamwork there, bringing the community together with multiple schools. So we love to see that. Moving on to 8.1, the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd move to approve the consent agenda items 8.1 through 8.3 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Mike. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. On to number 9, the Idea Tech Internet Franchise Agreement. Jenny's going to talk to us a little bit about that and introduce Idea Tech's Public Relations Manager. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Council President. So before you tonight is a franchise agreement with Idea Tech. This is a newer company to the Andover area, but not new to the state of Kansas. They will be bringing fiber to homes, or hope to do so in the future. The franchise agreement before you tonight is based on the same template that is utilized with all of your franchise agreements. City attorney worked with Idea Tech's legal counsel on the agreement. And so before you tonight, there's some information about the financial implications, but it does reflect the other agreements we have in place. I thought because Idea Tech is new to Andover, we would let James Kristalik with Idea Tech, Community and Public Relations Manager, introduce their company to you as well as the greater community.
Yep. Thank you all for letting me be out here this evening. Before you, there's a PowerPoint that we have, and here's a clicker. Okay, that works. As I just push this button right here in the middle.
I think the arrows.
The arrows. Okay. Didn't want to mess it up. Again, we've been around since 1999. We were founded in Buhler, Kansas, small city right outside of Hutchinson. Our founder, Daniel Friesen, founded this in high school with 4 other students. Started as a computer repair shop where they were working on computers. Each one of the four founders had $250. They were taking out a loan to build those school computers that you see there, back when those computers were a thing, as you can see. And so by 2007, Daniel, we started buying up different type of DSL companies, failing DSL companies. Than that, but then they realized that DSL was not a great option. And so 2007, Buhler, Kansas was the first city throughout the state to have a full network of fiber optic. And so it says a lot, especially from a community with only 1,200 people, to have that adapting to the service. What we've seen with that is that fiber has been unhinged. It has unlimited capabilities where it brings a lot of different components to having better access for residents, for businesses, for residents, and really uncapped on that. And so In 2011, Daniel was working on a computer for a Verizon executive. And he said, hey, I heard that you built out the city of Bueller and Inman. Have you ever thought about building any fiber out to Verizon towers for us? So we put in the RFP, they put out a bid, and we won that. Eventually, we did a good job on that Inman tower. It led to another tower to another. And so Idea Tech built out 3,500 miles throughout the state and built out all of Verizon's 4G towers. And so in 2014, 2015, it got a little too big. And we sold that portion of the business off to a company called Zayo Group out of Colorado. They purchased that enterprise portion. And then in 2015, they said, okay, what do we want to do? And our mission, Idea Tech, is to serve the underserved. And so we focus on more rural areas throughout the state. And we've built out over 100 communities, 60 fiber communities. And now we're coming into a little bit of larger metropolitan areas. Why? Because we get a lot of interest from residents who will go online and put their information in. Maybe they've lived in a city like a Halstead or a Nickerson or a Hutchinson, and they move over to Andover and they want another option. We've realized that in Andover specifically, there's been opportunities where maybe there's only been 1 to 2 providers and there's been set costs. And with those, you see there's costs for data caps and things like that. And so when we bring us to a market, we see that the prices go down and the speeds go up. And so we always tell people it's a win-win because we believe competition is good. And so that's what we're doing today. We've got a lot of active projects going on in the area. In Augusta, we're building out the current city. We've got an active project going in Mulvane, Newton, wrapping up some Hutchinson, Eureka on a couple grant things. And then eventually coming through to Andover. So moving right along into that. We've had 160 employees at Idea Tech. We have our main office is out of Bueller. So that picture there represents Bueller. Where we're at. But we also have an office in Western Kansas, in Fowler, Kansas, because we stretch all the way from Liberal to Garden City and all the way up to Emporia. And so we have an office, a satellite office out of Wichita as well. And so we got 160 employees. And so these are the cities that we cover. And we would love to add Andover to that list here of cities. The nice thing about Idea Tech is when you call us, you get somebody local on the phone right away. We can be here within hours and we do those troubleshootings right away on there. Investment into the community. I'm the community relations guy. So once we start to build a project into Andover here, would love to get involved with all the different organizations that we can because we like to be a good community partner, join chambers and things of that nature. And so I know that that'll be something that we want to be able to do. Our goal is to be able to serve over 50,000 customers by the end of next year. And so we're really about over 27,000 right now. And so we put in $100 million into the state of private dollars in the last 25 years. So we're celebrating our 25th anniversary here actually pretty soon here. This is one other reason why fiber is good for the community because it does attract those businesses and those jobs. I can tell you that we've had a lot of testimonials from COVID when CARES was the thing that came out. We built out 17 communities in 3 months, all the way stretching from Pratt all the way down to Liberal. And a lot of these communities did not have any internet at all. And so options of that might have been a hotspot that teachers were sending home that just weren't feasible. And also we found out that a lot of residents might have had a wireless signal, which was great probably in the wintertime when there's no leaves. But when the spring comes, it really makes services a lot harder for those families. And then we realized a lot of different areas of the community didn't have any internet at all. So what it the most. And so we work with communities and we work with Andover to make sure that there's a public Wi-Fi so that their people will be able to do those things and just advance those metrics. And the difference with fiber optic versus a coax cable, not to say any competitor names, with that is what you see there is a 2,500 download and a $2,500 or 2,500 meg upload. So that means it's a symmetrical connection. When you have a coax cable, it was created for cable. And so it's great at pushing cable through those, but it also can do internet. And so the problem is I always tell people you get to that 3 or 4 o'clock bog. Everybody's coming home from school. Some people are doing homework. Some people are doing remote work. And then you have that lagging. The nice thing when you have a fiber connection, you know that you have an individual connection and you know that it's not going to be lagging. And the nice things about us is the latency. We keep that latency down. We don't have any data caps, so you don't get that thing at the middle of the month that says, hey, you've reached 20 gigs. You go a little bit more, you get $20 charge. So we do not have that. And so that's one of the things that really, we believe with a fiber connection, there is no that throttling on that. Why we're here in today in Andover, as they mentioned, is for a franchise agreement. We've been working with the KOBD on a middle mile project that's fiber line all the way stretched from Kansas City down to Wichita. And so as you can see here, the middle mile project route, it kind of encompasses a little bit within to Andover. And we feel like we should get our franchise agreement in place now, because once we start that project here within the next few months, we want to make sure that we have that in place with you all. And so to ask, one question I always get is, when are you going to be live? The thing is, we have our build out really for till the end of the year. We'll be working on this build out towards the last Q3, Q4 quarter, but I would say that we'd probably be all built out by the end of 2025. So I know that might be a question, but when we do start that major process of building fiber into the community, we do pre-construction meetings. So we make sure that we get the public works director, we get all the right parties to the table to make sure that it goes smoothly and there's communication on both ends. So today, maybe a little early, but we want to get that franchise agreement in place with you all and just make sure that we have that. So that's all I have for you all. So I know I was rambling, but if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Mr. President, I do have one question.
Sure, Tim, go ahead.
How can one be the first to sign up for this? I think Jody and I probably want to be your first client. So is there a waiting list that you guys have?
Well, I tell you what, the best way that we always tell people is to go to our website, ideatech.com. And when you go on there, you can put your information on there. And then what it does, it pings a little dot on our map. And so the more dots that we typically have is where we build. And we've been seeing those pop up a lot more in Andover. And so we're like, okay, the time is now to give that option. And so it just makes sense because we're a little over 50% done with our Augusta project. And we just need to kind of work our way in. Historically, we would never, come into a little bit more of the populated cities, but we've been seeing a lot of monopolized markets where there's only been 1 to 2. And so it's a win-win for anybody, because even if they don't adapt to our service, I've seen people say, well, I know IdeaTech is here and their price is this, and then prices might be matched on some things. So it just takes a little bit of someone coming in.
And then one more question. What kind of disturbance do you make in a community per se? I mean, we're going to have road closures down Andover Road. Are you burying the lines? Are we hanging them on the pole? I guess Andover Road, you have to bury them, but what kind of disturbance does this cause?
That's a great question. So when we come into a city, we work there with our KMZ mapping, and we look at the areas that we need to go underground, and we look at the areas that we need to go aerial fiber. So if there's municipal power, we can put our infrastructure up on those. We will do that. The thing that we do is when we bury, there is some boring that happens. We do have to put the fiber into the ground. And so there is some yard disturbances on those. But the nice thing about everything that we do is we have a one pager on a complaint form, things of that nature. We make sure that sprinkler lines get hit, we fix those. If anything, fences get damaged, we fix that. And so rest assured, we do get those phone calls, but as we try to explain to residents that this infrastructure is good for the next 50 to 100 years in the ground. Once it's there, it's good. And even if they don't adapt to service, the next person who might move in will potentially adapt to those service. So we do have some junction boxes out there as well, but we also have flush mounts. So in some areas, neighborhoods, they request flush mounts. So they're you can't even tell, but some might have a pedestal out there so you can see those. So those would be the only major disturbances. And if it's aerial, then it comes from the poles. But we do bury the line as well. And so if it's a vibratory plow, 6 to 12 inches in the ground. So that's one thing we do.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
James, I know in our last regional meeting that I attended in March, someone came down, there's a new internet, maybe exchange server point coming to the Wichita State. How does that help latency with IdeaTech, or will that make your latency even better then?
That will. And so the nice thing with working with Wichita State on that internet exchange point is people don't realize when you go online to Google something, all that information goes to Kansas City, Missouri, and then it comes back. So what that will do is when you have a central location here in Kansas, and we have that, it'll make easier for competitors like us or providers like us
to build off of that network. And so for latency, it will definitely help. It'll definitely be one of the only internet exchange point in the state of Kansas. And so to have that just 5 miles down the road is going to be very helpful for us and anybody else who wants to come into the market. So to answer your question, yes, it will help.
If you get approved?
Yeah, so the time frame right now, we'd like to start that middle mile project here in the next couple months, kind of in that outlined yellow area, because we got to be building from Kansas City down. And I would tell you, it'd be like, okay, you're going to start in Kansas City and work your way down. I've been told by our business development to be piece by piece of where we're kind of at. And so I would imagine, he told me that trucks might start rolling in Q3, Q4 within that time frame. And so we will be working on that. For the rest of the purple that you see within Andover, that would be probably 6 to 12 months on that. So I'd like to, like I said, I'd say end of 2025, but if we're done before then, you might be a lot happier. So I like to give a little bit longer of a time frame.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
In terms of cost, is there just one set price like per household, or will there be multiple tiers?
Yeah, there is multiple tiers. And I wish I had a slide on there. So our internet price started at $49 a month, and there's no contract. So what you see is what you pay. You can also have the chance of, say, starting at an intro package of that $49. And then if it's not fast enough, you just call us and we can bump the light up within that fiber. And so our sales reps, they really try to find out what the need is. And so they say, okay, if you're working from home, you know, this is kind of a recommended package, but you don't have to go there. I can tell you on a Gigablast type package from others folks, people are happy with the entry level package compared to what that, because we'll have people all the time. They will call you if they're not getting the speed, but if you're giving them more than speed, they're not going to call you. So we keep our network under 50% subscribed because of that fact, that we don't want to oversubscribe our network. So,
Mr. President,
Yes, Tim.
move that we adopt an ordinance granting a franchise and authorizing Idea Tech Telecom LLC, a telecommunications local exchange service provider, to provide local exchange service within the city of Andover, Kansas.
I second that.
Tim with the motion, Jody with the second. Any further discussion? Jenny, is there I must have missed it in the agreement. Is there any expiration to this agreement or any of our agreements, or do they expire?
They do come with terms, and I'm trying to remember what it is, and JT's looking as well.
10 years.
10 years, if you didn't hear that.
10 years. Thank you, JT. I appreciate that. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Thanks,
you all.
James. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, item 10, Yorktown Parkway concept, Central Avenue to 13th. Les is going to talk to us about that, please.
Mr. President and council, as PEC has worked on the design of our Yorktown Parkway project from Central Avenue to 13th Street, they're starting to refine the typical section, what the pavement widths are, sidewalk, median, so forth, within that right of way that we purchased a few months ago on that alignment that we established, over a year ago. So Tim Azir from PEC is here tonight to kind of give you an update on where he's at on what that roadway will look like, and maybe get some input from you on your thoughts about the widths of the median versus the widths of the grass strips on the side of the road and in between the sidewalk and property line and so forth.
Again, I'm Tim Azier, PEC. This map should be familiar to you. It's what we've had as a road alignment all along. I'm not sure what these slides are, so we're going to be surprised together. So what we've got to prepare you is a couple and different options that are similar, and then one that's more representative of the section to the north that doesn't have a raised median in it because traffic volumes are higher. So for the majority of the southern portion, what we're talking about is one lane in each direction with a left turn lane into major openings. The image you see here has a 15.5-foot wide median in the middle, and it's got a raised median just adjacent to the left turn lane that could be filled with colored brick stamped concrete, similar to what you have on other phases of Yorktown. In comparison to that, so you've got 15.6 in the middle and 13 foot to the right of way on the right side. I think it's just slow. I don't even know if I'm pointing this in the right direction. Just
I think the 13 in the middle is before that other one.
I went past it. I promise I'm a smart person. Oh, yeah, there it was. Okay. So let's make sure it says. Here, the only difference is we invert the 13 and the 15.6. Now you have 15.6 behind the back of curb on the right side. You've got a 13-foot median in the middle, and you have a ramp nose, and you're separated by oncoming traffic by paint rather than that raised median along the left turn lane. So the thought behind this is whether you want to put trees in the median or trees behind the back of curb, you can do both. But whether you wanted to have more area in the median itself and have that raised curb separation and try to create your canopy there, you really don't have much opportunity with the 10-foot path on the left side to be able to plant a lot of trees. But you do have a full path on the, or potential for a path on the right side with that 15.6. What we don't show that here, our thought in conjunction with staff was that sidewalk, we would grade for it now with our project, but that would be constructed as development occurs along the right side. And you, with 15.6, you have a little more flexibility to be able to meander that sidewalk in and around trees or utilities or whatever it may be that's in the right of way. So those two are the two that I think we're hoping for a decision on, one or the other. And then the third one that you've seen. Oh, that's on me. There it is. Okay. So that is 3 12-foot lanes. If you remember on the last, those were 11-foot through lanes and a 12-foot turn lane, which is pretty typical. This is 3 12s with no median. It's got 15.6 on the right side, so you have plenty of room for trees and sidewalk there as well. All of these show a 10-foot path on the left side with 4.5 foot of buffer for lighting and inlet tops that we don't show, but that's all similar to the other phases of Yorktown that are currently constructed.
And Tim, I will speak up. Your packets are updated. The turn lane should have been, I think, what is commonly called a chicken lane, in that you could turn left or right. That was an early drawing. That was a mistake. So what's in your packet is correct. That turn lane would go either way.
As that development occurs in the future, you could turn either way.
Homer, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mike.
Probably less for Jenny. Thought we had talked about having 2 extra lanes potentially in the grass that we would use if we needed to later on. So that would be like 4 11-foot lanes, but we're only going to use 2. The other ones are just set up for future growth. I know we talked about that.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my question too, because I know at one of the workshops last year or year before, we wanted to plan for future development and being able to put another lane in if needed.
And a 13 in the middle and 4 11s, 57 feet. and you got 13 left over. I know you want a big sidewalk, which is great. It just means that you got, a couple feet left over, 3 feet left over. But, you can have a sidewalk over top of part of a future road. Because we had talked about the drainage and getting the drainage set up so you don't have to redo drainage if you added 2 extra lanes in 15, 20 years. The least amount of disturbance as possible. But I was pretty accurate that I believe that we had talked about.
Yeah, it was in a workshop when we talked about this. I don't know, last
And
year,
then-
year before.
I think it was a concept again, right? It was,
Yeah.
but I remember it as well.
And then those other lanes are just hidden until we need them.
I remember there was some discussion about that. We have currently 70 feet of right of way. You're right, you could probably fit more lanes in the future. But our traffic report suggests that the 2 lanes divided is sufficient for at least the 25-year future. Now, if we were to want to expand to 4 lanes, 2 each direction, we wouldn't have room for dedicated turn lanes.
We definitely
And
need that.
We would have to take what is now the median, convert it to pavement, and add pavement on the right side of Tim's typical sections that he's showing you.
Yeah, I mean, that would just be there when you need a cutout, Obviously, 80% of it is gonna be a landscape median of some width. Let's just, call it another lane, another 11 foot or whatever. But, and when you do need the cutouts, you just provide a cutout in those just how we do it anyway. I just think we need to think about that.
I think the positive is that you have the space. Financially, you have the budget to do what Mr. Izier has presented to you tonight. So perhaps in 25 years, that's
Well,
something-
digging up all of the drainage and redoing it all, because we talked about that.
Yeah.
Putting the drainage back. So we're set up for 4 roads. I don't, and this came up as well, is that we don't want to put ourselves in a predicament like we did on Andover Road, that we don't have a little turn lane. And we have 4 lanes going each direction, but really each lane and going in each direction that's close to each other are turn lanes, which now means that we really only have two lanes that are working most of the time. So Andover Road's not perfect. So I just want to make sure that when we put this in, we do have a way to make this connect into the current Yorktown. And 70 feet's enough to have a nice landscape median down the middle and a nice sidewalk on one side. And yes, you're only left with 3 feet on the other side. Or maybe you don't need a 10-foot sidewalk, I don't know.
Now, I think the 10-foot sidewalk is needed. I mean, the bigger sidewalk is needed.
Right.
I just know we
That's-
talked about future-proofing this, not 100%, but at least getting the storm drains off. So if we needed to lay at least a 3rd lane, we could without digging everything up, disturbing all the landscape, just being able to grade, form, and go. I guess, and I brought this up last time. It's like, is this basically from Central to 13th? This is kind of okay. So we have 4 lanes of Yorktown from Central to Andover Road. which sees very little traffic. Now, I'm not thinking third dimensional here because future.
You mean Kellogg?
Yeah, Kellogg, sorry, Kellogg, my bad. I see this road being used way more than Douglas to Kellogg, even with the heritage and all the projects and everything going in there. And that's a 4-lane racetrack. So, I mean, I disagree with the traffic study, but those guys get, they have lots of education and they know what they're talking about. I just want to make sure that we future-proof this in 25 years when we're like, oh crap, we got, 20,000 cars a day trying to go down a 2-lane road, that we're ready for it.
Yeah, I'm okay with 11-foot lanes. So, but we need to come up with a design of a future 2 more in there somewhere. And we have room. It's gonna be, yes, it's gonna be tight, but I think we need to set ourselves up.
I mean, the idea of Yorktown, at least when I've understood it in workshops and that kind of stuff, it's the future, the next busy road, if you will. And it's been described that some trucks will be coming off of 54. Is that not, and I'd say trucks, but I was concerned about the turn lane, these little turn lanes. Are those going to be like to the neighborhood, or would that be on the 13th? I think it's drawing 1 and 2.
Well, 13th probably be a light, will be a light, correct?
The first 2 concepts are showing dedicated left turn lanes into neighborhood streets in between the mile line, Central and 13th Street. This third is a typical dedicated 2-way left turn lane, 12-foot lane down the center. And there is the potential, if the volumes warrant, we could put a traffic signal at either end, either at Central or at 13th Street, if the volumes warrant. And again, Tim, our traffic report tells us that our future volumes from Central to 13th are maybe a half of what they are from Central to Kellogg because of the limited potential north and east of this area because of floodplains that kind of separate us from development further to the
So that
east.
whole north side of Crescent Lakes, that's, possibly instead of trying to zig through the neighborhood to get to Andover Road and the new development, hopefully that's going to go across the street and everything else that's going to go that's not going to cause, a traffic backup when we just have one single lane.
Right. This would act as a neighborhood collector street to the adjacent residential neighborhoods, including Crescent Lakes. And those traffic volumes from the neighborhoods are very small. We do realize that there is some traffic that's generated outside of those adjacent neighborhoods, but it's not a huge number either. We don't warrant 4 lanes of investment with dedicated left turns at this point.
Correct. I think that's what we're asking. Les. We don't want
Mike has
that.
pointed out.
Yeah.
If in the future, if our traffic report is wrong, there's additional right of way there. We could expand off to the right side of these concepts in that 15-6, which would eliminate a 5-foot sidewalk. And to get 4 lanes, we would have to turn the medians to pavement.
Well, I don't think anyone wants to see the medians turn to pavement. Maybe they can just be skinnier. I know we kind of went a little skinny on the current Yorktown spots. I think we'd rather see landscaping in the middle besides asphalt. I don't care if it's just 5 foot wide in the middle. It's better than seeing a row of asphalt.
I think I just need to know that we're going to future-proof this. So in 15 years when we say, oh crap, those traffic studies were wrong, we don't have to dig up, kind of like what we had to do at 159th, dig all that back up, right? I don't know how this works, Les. So, I mean,
So Yorktown is kind of the interim. We do our major road development at the mile lines. In this case, because of floodplains, the next major road improvement will be to the east of Prairie Creek Road somewhere because of floodplains. And it might be as much as a half a mile east of Prairie Creek Road. Yorktown serves more as that collector to the adjacent residential neighborhoods and to carry some traffic between Kellogg, Heritage, Butler Community College, Central Park, 13th Street Park, YMCA, a little more than the typical collector, but not at the full arterial volumes. We're seeing 22,000 trips a day on Andover Road. We're nowhere near that volume on Yorktown from Central to 13th Street.
And so will trucks then for like, you named a couple businesses, but like Vornado, Sherwin-Williams, or Everidge or whatever. Is that traffic for those big commercial businesses? Is that going to be then still coming off the turnpike?
That's a possibility that you could see an occasional truck on Yorktown, but the majority of their trips, like you said, are to the turnpike or back towards Wichita or down to make that connection at Kellogg.
Okay. What are you guys wanting from us tonight as far as, is there a choice between what we want between 15.6 and 13?
We were looking at the width of the medians and also the style of the left turn bays, whether those would have an adjacent little median strip with the colored concrete filler, or if it was just a ramp style median nose within the painted left turn lane.
So I guess my one question, question I have is maybe for Rick, Daniel, and maybe Les, you can announce it or answer it. But Jenny kind of mentioned cost or budget. What of these is the most economical for the budget up front, but then also ongoing for maintenance? I know Tim and I have inquired about, like on 21st Street, in between the bricks, sometimes, you got weeds or grass growing. What's the ongoing maintenance, or do we have any idea what's going to be the cheaper option? How about that?
So we met with Rick before he left on vacation to talk about his preference. I think he leaned towards the ramp nose at the left turn bays rather than that skinny median, because it's easier to maintain for snow and ice and sweeping and so forth. And it's probably a little bit cheaper to build because you don't have to build those two curbs and then infill it with concrete. It can all be just a part of the road paving and striping afterward.
So to keep with the theme of the rest of Yorktown, though, it would be picture 2 without the ramp, correct? I mean, because the rest of Yorktown has the skinny.
It does.
Okay. So I guess that's the question. Do we want to keep with the rest of the aesthetic of Yorktown, or do we want to change? If it's only about cost, I say let's do the blacktop one and save money. But if we want to be aesthetic, I think we need to do number 2 to keep with the rest of Yorktown.
Yeah, I agree with the number 2 but I'm okay with it being 13 feet in the middle. But still, because you can still make that work and still have the skinny island. But I also want to see a fourth option of the extra lanes as a future as well. So really, I don't want to vote on this at all.
Okay, I think we will, if that's the consensus of the group and not just one council member, so y'all still have to weigh in on that. But then we would bring something back to your next meeting because we are wanting to move and get this project bid as soon as possible. So
Mr. President, I move that we table this item number 10 until next meeting.
Second.
Motion by Tim, Mike with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0 to table to the next city council meeting.
Mr. I do have, I mean, we made a big thing about making sure this is future-proofed. And it seems like what we asked just kind of got blown by the wayside. Is that true? I mean, Mike and I think Troy even mentioned it. We asked, hey, we want to make sure this is future-proof. So if we needed to add an extra lane, or it seems like staff just kind of forgot about that.
There is right of way there
Okay.
to add lanes.
Well, we talked about
And
making sure the
as far
storm
as
drain was in spots
The,
and.
the storm drains is not a big deal.
Okay.
We can either set the inlets back from the curb, or if we were to add a lane in the future, we can always pave over the top of those inlets and add a new structure back at the new curb line.
Okay.
It's not a end of the world
Perfect.
start over deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just future proofing it, just making sure that we have 2 hidden lanes if needed.
And then I guess my feelings too on it are similar to Mike and Tim, in that, I'd like to finish Yorktown scape. If we've already kind of set in motion, this is what it's going to look like. Even though I'm kind of for, the ramp nose on that. I mean, I like that. I like, that it helps out parks, streets, maintenance, but I also wanted to match the aesthetics of the rest of Yorktown. So I think that's already kind of been, those wheels have already been set in motion, and I'd like to see about doing that. Obviously, if you're going to tell me it's, X number of dollars and we don't have that, then that'd be a concern. But I think we need to do what we've set out to do and go with the stamped concrete, like Mike said, take some out of that 13th foot on the east side and do the 13-foot turn lane and the island there.
The difference in cost is not a deal killer.
Okay.
It's measured in thousands, not hundreds of thousands.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Liz. All right. On to number 10. Sorry. Number 11, boundary declaration resolution. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate you coming by. Jolene is going to speak to us about this next item.
Good evening, President and council members. Before you tonight is simply a housekeeping item. State statute requires that cities declare their boundaries in years when land is annexed or de-annexed. So before you are the annexations between 22 and 23, listed are commonly known as the Penner property and 804 West Harry. The city attorney has reviewed the resolution and approves this to form, and the city engineer has produced the legal. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Jolene. Anyone have any questions? Let the record also reflect we did have a city council member leave, so in attendance now is 5. Still quorum, right, JT? Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll have an emergency yet.
It's fine.
Mr. President, I'd move to adopt a resolution declaring the legal boundaries of the city of Andover as December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Phil with the motion, Tim with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Pose nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Homer, I would like to say that's a very impressive boundary that JT, I'm assuming, wrote. So if somebody wrote it, it is very long, and I've done those in the past in engineering, and I know how tedious they are. So kudos on keeping that up correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, but the engineer drafts the boundary. I have nothing to do with it.
JT's like, oh yeah, you're all yeah.
Next is number 12. This is the Global CAD RMS software renewal. Becky Day is going to brief us on this, I believe.
Good evening, President and City Council. Before you is a recommended action for the Andover Police Department to approve the 24 to 25 maintenance agreement for Global. They provide our records management system and our computerized, I can't even talk, sorry. Our computerized automated dispatch. This historically has been on the consent agenda, but because it reached over 25,000, it now serves a place for you guys to get to review it. I know that on the 30th, we'll be bringing in a proposal for different vendors to select moving forward, but we do have to have this one through 2020 or May of 2025. The fees for this will be divided between the police department's operational fund and the E911 state tax fund. Those costs are for the police department $15,771, and the E911 state tax fund is $10,458.
And then Becky, was this in the budget?
Correct. Yes, this has been in the budget.
So no surprises.
No surprises. Yeah, no surprises. We've had Global for 18 years. It just finally reached the point that it went over 25,000. So now you guys get to vote on it.
And then I think I've asked this maybe in past years as well. Not that I forgot, but just so the public knows. This is for the first responders. Why doesn't the fire department share in any of this budget on this particular item since it's for 911?
So currently, the fire department doesn't have CAD, field ops, stuff like that in their vehicles. Going with the new vendors that I'm going to propose in a couple of weeks for approval, they will start accruing some of the cost because they're going to start having the features as well.
It's exciting.
I have a couple questions, Homer.
Sure, go ahead, Tim.
Who does Butler County use? Butler County 911? What vendor do they use?
For CAD and RMS, they use Tyler Technologies.
Tyler Technologies,
Mhm.
okay. I guess, can we not partner on their system? And
We could partner on their system. The cost is actually more than what I've gotten in vendor responses that I've been reviewing. Plus, we lose all control. We don't get to control the setup for the RMS. We don't get to control the setup for the computerized dispatch. It's based off of what they have done for the entire county. So we lose that customization.
Is that because, I guess it's not, we don't officially will lose it. We just would have to ask them to put some of that customization in for our area, correct?
Correct, but it would come with a cost for our area.
Okay.
Any changes would come with a cost.
I guess I'm just, we pay a 911 fee. We pay taxes to Butler. We pay taxes to Andover. We have two 911 systems. So that's kind of why I'm asking. It seems like a little redundancy going on that we have our own and then Butler County has their own. This is a lot of money, 25 grand. I mean, just kind of throwing that out there.
I believe in 18, when I was looking at vendors to piggyback off of Butler counties, it was close to 325,000.
because we would still have to have our own licenses and everything that goes with that. And then if we were going to add any of the interfaces that we would need to keep using the systems we have, that was going to add more cost to it.
I would suggest this is just a cost of doing business with a 911 center. So to date, the governing body has shown support to have our own 911 dispatch center for the reasons somewhat similar that Becky's alluded to, having some local control. There is absolutely more cost-effective ways to do it, but historically that has not been the desire of the governing body in Andover to explore those more cost-effective options.
Thanks, Becky. Anyone else have anything to add or questions for Becky?
Mr. President.
Go ahead, Jody. God bless you.
Bless you. I move to approve the annual renewal of software for the agency's computerized automated dispatch and records management system license with Global Software for $26,229.
Second.
Jody with the motion, Tim with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0, sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Man, quick one. On the 13, member items. Start to my left, Mike.
Yes, I just want to say, since Kansas is Kansas and K-State and all those are no longer basketball schools, that y'all should start rooting for my team, Roll Tide, who makes it to the Final Four. So, just saying.
Once
So,
in a
you know,
lifetime, it's pretty awesome.
Since we're not basketball teams anymore, so.
Tide, isn't that a laundry detergent?
That's in Alaska, right?
Yeah.
Roll.
The Roll Tide. For none of y'all who had them going, which I did, to the Final Four. So.
I had UConn.
Mhm. Yep.
Do you have anything else?
No. See, no one, no, the KUs and K-State people, went crazy. So.
Washburn.
Homer, I got nothing.
I'm a loser. I can't even tell you who won the game, so sorry. I was focused on civil duties and keeping up with civic
Bugles.
business.
And Bugles.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch Bugles. So I don't have anything. The IXP, I kind of alluded to it earlier in the last REAP meeting. There is a new station, if you will, for internet services coming to Kansas right now. He said Kansas City, but it's actually in Kansas City, Missouri. So none in this state. It's coming to right by Wichita State, north side. So that's exciting. And so we'll maybe help with the latency of internet options here in Andover. So that's awesome. I'm excited. Onward and upward. Thank you.
Well, there's always Starlink, so which I actually got not too long ago.
Yeah.
And it is more than 10 times faster than anything.
Huh.
I mean, it is crazy. I can have everything on in the house, TVs, computers, all the phones on, and it still is no bogging down.
Huh.
I mean, it's, what's the normal latency, like 15 to 20?
Mm-hmm.
I get like 120, and one day I was getting over 400.
Wow. Have you had a storm? I mean, has there a storm? Had been any issues or anything?
No.
Huh.
Yeah. It also has a de-icer on it as well too. So pretty
It's
cool.
like a plane.
Hey, Elon Musk.
Phil?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Russell, April 18th, Fire Station 2 open house. I'll be there for a good time.
You gonna run there?
I'm gonna run there from my mom's house. Yes. And then I think a week from this Saturday, the Froyo place is opening up. They're doing a ribbon cutting a week from Saturday.
Are they doing the 18th too or no?
The 20th, I believe.
Oh, there's a 20.
So probably be there all day eating frozen yogurt. So hope to see you guys there.
Won't be running that much after that.
No, that's all I got.
So I just want to congratulate Mr. Matt. He's in a big boy chair now. That's always an exciting thing. Congratulations. I also want to thank the wonderful taxpayers of Andover. I get to go to training session this weekend paid for by the city. And it's always a great time, get to network with other city leaders, other city administrators and managers. And it's always a good time doing that. So I want to thank myself and all the other taxpayers for letting me go to that. So that's all I got.
Well, thanks, Tim, for representing us, and congratulations to the police department too and the 911 center for the CALIA accreditation approval. Is it reaccreditation? So that's it's a big deal, and not everyone knows it, and it's a lot of background work that comes with a certificate that we hang on the wall that says we're accredited, right? So great job to all the staff that helped out with that and went to that. It looked in the pictures kind of like a jury setting of, the 4 representatives from us and then a board of examiners. So pretty intense scrutiny goes on with that. So just appreciate you guys doing that. And that's it. Staff, you got anything?
One more thing, Daniel, there was a lot of disc golfers out this afternoon. So it looks like they had a little mini tournament going on possibly, or a club or something like that. So it was kind of cool seeing so many out.
They were basketball fans last week, but as Mike told us, then they didn't have a team to go, so they went to disc golf. So. Next golf tournament or disc golf tournament? Disc golf, April 21st.
Has that been put on the website yet? Okay.
Then we also have a kite flying day, but I think that's on the 27th. So that'll be fun as well. Just getting ready for that. The wind blowing. Phil went out and tried helping me fly a kite. It was very interesting. Is there a motion to adjourn? Tim with the motion, Jody with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.